Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Sorry for my little hiatus, but had a little bit of a family emergency, so I'm back from that now. Everything's good, by the way, everything's good. Sorry about a little bit of a delay between it coming out and putting this video out, but nonetheless, we will go through some of the TWID and look at some of the changes too. So, let's get right into it. Alright, so first things first, let's just go through and start reading some of this. Vault space is not changing in the Edge of Fate, but we do have additional vault space, quality of life features planned for Renegades. This sucks, but I think we're going to be fine. It's going to be a little rough initially. Our vault space might be full right now, but with the new tier system, I feel like a lot of our gear is going to be, we're almost going to like back of our mind sunset stuff. It's going to be a lot more to look forward to, even if it's like minor things, like the tier 5 weapons especially. I know that they have minor things like the enhanced first and second row and the enhanced origin trait, but they also feature enhanced rows of multiple perks, which is very desirable. So I think it'll be pretty worth it to keep those instead of some old stuff, except for like most recent stuff from like Heresy and everything. The next thing is, will I be able to use my current gear? And I touched that a little bit, but it's going to be viable on the Edge of Fate. And apparently our gear, if you have like adepts and stuff like that, or artifice armor, it's going to be hovering around 3 or 4 for the new tier system. Once they introduce new gear, there's like all of our old gear is going to be converted to the new system. And they are going to put some extra spiky stats into our current gear. So our current gear is still going to be very viable initially, but maybe towards the end of the month or something like that, we're going to start seeing more tier 4s and 5s and want to like use them more. Plus, I'll get into later some of the changes that they are making that make it more enticing to use new stuff. Let's see. So there's 3 new weapon archetypes as far as I know. Yeah, there's a spread shot hand cannon, which is like a shotgun hand cannon. Pretty crazy. There's a rocket assistant pulse rifle, which is very interesting. It really caught my eye in some of this stuff. What was the other one? There's a bow that has a frame that's like Wish Ender, so it can pierce stuff, which is pretty neat. What's happening to mobility, recovery, and resilience? So, we'll get into that in a minute. Players will be able to access activities and locations through it, and Kepler can be accessed through the portal. So there's kind of like a hybrid thing going on where they have the old destination map and the new portal. It's going to be a little weird. I really hope they don't get rid of the destination map because it's a pretty staple, I would say, part of Destiny and its menu system. But we'll have to wait and see. Either that, or I hope they can integrate it into the portal somehow and make it like actually one section instead of 2 separate ones. But we'll have to wait and see. They're trying to make things easier for people to get into, and I understand. But please don't. I hope they don't dumb down the look of everything. And I heard people say like Fortnite-ifying Destiny, and I kind of agree with that. I think at the end of the day, as long as it brings more people in, brings new people in, it makes it less complicated for people to jump into, I think that is a win in everybody's books. Because we need more people to get on Destiny. Destiny's a little bit of on a downward trend, so hopefully it'll go up after the expansion and not down more. So the next thing, unstable cores. Having a new material replace a similar material or trying to go into that space just because people have been hoarding it. I understand that, but like, why couldn't you just use the old material first and say like, okay, now we're telling you this material, like the enhancement cores, maybe just limit them per season or something? I don't know, it's just an idea, but I don't like having to reacquire a new thing that's also going to go away each season. It just feels a little bit more FOMO, and I think we need less FOMO in this game. So I'll have to wait and see how that works. And maybe you'll get a lot, because I think if you dismantle tier 5s, you'll be able to get those as well, besides from like passes or anything. So we'll have to wait and see. Gear tiering and exotic armor 3.0. Here's the big one. When you log in to play the Edge of Fate, you can pause and read this if you want. I'm not going to go over all of it. When you log in to play the Edge of Fate, you'll notice your armor stats have changed. So what becomes of your old stats? Mobility is now weapons, and we'll go over this in a bit. Resilience is now health. Recovery is now class. Strength is now melee. Discipline is now grenade, and intellect is now super. These bottom 3 Ooh, ooh, ooh. These bottom three were kind of obvious, but people were wondering where these would go. And as a Titan main personally, mobility going into weapons hurts my soul a little bit. I think it's going to be really interesting diving into the new stat system and the armor system, and it's going to shake up the game quite a lot, which I'm kind of excited over, but I just hope the game doesn't get a little too grindy. Now, grind is fine as long as it's not like destroy your life kind of grind. I don't want that. I want, well, it can be a hard grind, but just like don't make it so, I guess, stale and boring. And like them adding a lot of challenge with some of the stuff I'll also be good diving into a little later. The challenge modifiers and stuff being customizable. That's fine, but I'm really concerned about some of like there's like Grandmaster and Ultimatum difficulty, and if they try and make it like Halo 2 Legendary type of difficult where you're dying constantly and you're like wiping all the time. So let's get into some of this. What are the new stats and what do they do? Before I go into this, stats are now going to go from 1 to 200. These are just breaking down what happens in almost the original case of going to 100, and then when you boost past 200, you're going to get some extra bonuses. And when you invest so much into a stat, it's going to give you a nice boost in whatever you're trying to do. 1 to 100 for health. This is the new resilience, by the way. Grants 0 to 70 healing when picking up an orb of power. Grants 0 to 10% flinch resistance. 100 to 200. Shields start recharging 0 to 25% more quickly and take 50% less time to fully recharge. It's almost like recovery a little bit. 0 to 20 additional shield capacity versus combatants. So extra shield is kind of nice. I don't know how much 20 is going to really do, but I think that will help for tankier builds or even warlock builds, because that's kind of like what this is. I don't know if everyone's going to go into this one very much, because it's just mostly based around orbs and your shields and everything. So we'll have to wait and see. Melee 1 to 100 improves the base cooldown of your melee ability, improves the amount of melee energy gained from external sources, and any melee regeneration speed scalars from sources. So what that means is like if you have, I know it's not for melee, whatever the other perk is, kind of like Demolitionist would give you extra grenade energy. This would help with that. And 100 to 200, 0 to 30% increased melee ability damage. I am excited for this because I'm a Titan and I punch things a lot. So 30% extra damage, that's probably going to be a stat I invest into. Like it. And includes your powered, unpowered, and glaive melees, which is huge as well. Also for hunters. Trait and Vice. I approve as a Titan. Anyway. Grenade. Similar to melee, almost identical actually. Improves the base cooldown of your grenade ability, improves the amount of grenade energy gained from external sources, yada yada, same thing. But for 1 to 200, 0 to 65% increased grenade ability damage. That's going to be insane. Warlocks, you're eating. You're eating good. Super. So, 1 to 100, improves the super energy gained from damaging targets. It does not change the base cooldown time of your super. So, our base cooldown times are going to be fixed now, but your rate of gain is going to go up. When you had a higher intellect stat, your base cooldown went down, so it's different now. Improves the amount of super energy gained from external sources and any super regeneration, blah blah blah, same as grenade melee. 100 to 200 is 0 to 45% increased super ability damage. Golden Gun Hunters. Actually, you could say Golden Gun, Storm's Edge, stuff like that. Twilight Arsenal Titans and Yeet Titans, as in Thunder Crash, and probably Nova Bomb Warlocks and the Strand Super. I'll remember it one of these days. But yeah, one-off supers are going to be going hard if you build into the super stat. Class 1 to 100 improves base cooldown of your class ability, improves the amount of class ability energy gained, and the same thing. 100 to 200 grants a 0 to 40 HP overshield and only 0 to 10 in PvP on casting your class ability. Duration is determined by the ability used. Example, dodge and thruster last 5 seconds, barricade and rift last 10. This is a pretty big thing. I feel like hunters are going to build into this more for PvP. On certain Titan and Warlock builds, you're probably going to build into it because you get a longer lasting overshield. Now thruster is nice. I do have a build called Heart Propulsion, by the way. Go check that out. Link is right there. I think this will be a big change for class abilities. Now, do I see myself using it on Titan much? It depends, because like if I'm rocking a Void Titan where you plant the barricade down and get a Void Overshield, I don't think I'll be using that. Maybe on Strand or Solar, who knows. Actually, Arc. Arc would be a good one, but we'll get into the next one. So, for weapons, this one's an interesting one. 1 to 100, improves weapon reload and handling speeds. Improves damage versus minor and major combatants. 0 to 15% for primary and special, pretty huge. 0 to 10% for heavy. It's nice, but I don't think it'll be a very hard-hitting difference if you go into just 100. 100 to 200 grants a chance for ammo bricks produced to contain more ammo than normal. Improves damage versus boss, combatants, and guardians. 0 to 15% for primary and special. 0 to 10% for heavy. Bonus weapon damage versus players is 0 to 6%. That's going to be pretty disgusting in PvP. I'm not a PvP enjoyer, me personally, but as for this, so basically, once you have 200, you get 30% extra damage for your primary and special, and then 20% for your heavy. This stat, as well as super, in my eyes, are going to be the meta, because in the high-end content or the harder content, you want your super to be good and do a lot of damage, and you want your weapons to be putting out a lot of damage. So these two combined, pretty easy win, I think. And maybe you could have a weapon if you have 0 stat in grenade or something because of this way your stats are. You could just use demolitionist on a weapon or something to compensate for that. We'll have to wait and see, but I think it'll be pretty good. Ability stats and recharge rates. So here's an interesting thing too. At low stat investment, 0 to 30, your abilities will be recharging slower than they used to, but at high investment, 70 to 100, they'll be recharging faster. Any chunk energy gains, like demolitionist perks, that provide a direct amount, and any energy recharge scalers, like Crown of Tempest, will also now be scaled by your stat investment. At 70 stat, they will match the live game values and surpass them up to 100 stat. Below 70 stat, they will give less value than the live game. Say you're on Synthoceps Titan, and you have a lot of stat in weapon for some reason. And when you look at your stats total, you only have 10 to 30 melee, then you're probably going to want to get that up so you can get most of the benefit out of the exotic, which is melee damage. So, just a little side note there. Alright, let's just get into exotic armor 3.0. Yeah, so 81 is going to be reproducing exotic armor, and her supply is going to be limited. But you're going to get 20 inventory things, and you'll be able to get free rolls of your favorite armor. So it's only going to be available in the Year of Prophecy. And for class items, you don't have to worry about those. They will be retroactively updated with the new perks, or I mean the new stats, sorry. You'll be able to keep the ones you have instead of having to regrind those. Very nice. Very good bonus. So this is one of the negatives. And while it is technically negative, I don't think it's going to have too much impact on the major part of the game, or the major prismatic playstyle. So I'm just gonna read it here quickly. Consecration's going from 3 to 2. Not a surprise at all. Consecration Titan with knockout is still broken, and just having it reduced by 1 slot is really gonna move the needle, I don't think. Depending on if they do another nerf to it or not directly. But this isn't really gonna change much. Now, I don't really agree with most of the other changes for the other classes. Knockout remains at 2. For Hunter, Stylish Executioner remains at 2. Ascension is reduced from 3 to 2. Winter Shroud 3 to 2. I don't play Hunter very often, but when I did do Prismatic Hunter, Ascension's pretty good. It really helps for supporting your team, and I think in the new sandbox, having that ability to give everybody amplified is going to be huge. I think it'll remain good even with the reduced thing. Winter Shroud, though, that was a weird one. Winter Shroud is not a huge game changer, like dodging slows things next to you. That's like, it almost feels like Titan's Diamond Lance. Like, Diamond Lance is good, but it's not like huge game changing good, like Consecration, like destroying everything. But we'll have to wait and see. Maybe they'll revert some of these, who knows. Prismatic Warlock, Hellion 3 to 2. Oh, I should say Feed the Void remains at 2, so good. Hellion 3 to 2 though. Hellion's good, but like, is it worth a nerf? I don't know. I don't think so. Bleak Watcher, I would argue that Bleak Watcher is better because you actually stop enemies and freeze them. I guess maybe the combination of Hellion and Bleak Watcher is what they were looking at there. Let me know in the comments what you think of the nerfs here, because I saw more nerfs coming with Prismatic, personally, because there is some pretty strong combinations. But I feel like if they keep adding additions like Bolt Charge Titans, Storm's Keep Titans, and stuff like that, like I was on Storm Keep Titan for almost all of Heresy, just because of how powerful it was. And maybe that's because of the artifact, but we'll have to wait and see. So that's most of that. Okay. Yeah.